All right. So last week, I talked a lot about the problem phase of the problem, agitation, solution, copywriting formula. Probably the most popular formula, easy to remember. It works in like every situation. And I talked about the debate between starting a landing page with the problem or with the solution. It's a hot topic. I went over that last week, so I'll provide a link for that if you want to review it. Today, I want to get into another hot topic, which is the A part of PAS, agitation. So let's dive right in. So you may be thinking, who wants to be agitating another person, especially a reader? But here's the thing, like the problem that you talk about in your copy identifies the core issue or the challenge that your target audience faces. Okay. It's pretty straightforward. It resonates with them, acknowledges the pain point they're going through. And the goal is to ensure that the person reading your copy immediately recognizes themselves and feels understood to a point. The agitation phase goes a step further by intensifying that emotional impact of the problem. The key word there is the emotional impact. So it gets into the consequences of leaving the problem unresolved, highlights the frustrations. And I like to think of the analogy to keep in mind. If you have a friend that's at a job that they hate, they're enduring it for whatever reason, they want to get out of it, but every time they think about switching to another job, they talk themselves out of it, mainly because they are afraid of the change, but it's not a real legit reason. They just are afraid of something. So they may tell you, oh, I'm looking for a job, but you know what? I don't think I'm ready. And you will remind them, as a good friend that you are, that don't you remember all the times that Karen took credit for your work and that you were reprimanded for something you didn't do? And you start listing the things that they've complained to you about for the past 5 years about that job. It makes them say, yeah, you're right. That's the agitation, because a lot of times people will talk about the problem and feel that it's not really enough to make a change. Like some of these people, they're maybe going through something and it's starting to affect their community relationships. It's starting to affect their work. And that's the agitation there that is the phase where it's a phase you can get really specific. And in order to do this, you need to do one important thing. Well, there's a lot of things, but the main thing is you need to talk to your prospects, you need to talk to your customers, you talk to your previous customers, your current customers, clients, because you need to know exactly what is going on in their life in order to make that agitation just enough that they will make a decision and they'll do something about it. So as I mentioned, the three key differences between the agitation phase and the pain phase are these three things. Number one is the scope. Okay, the problem phase is broad and general, while the agitation phase, as I just mentioned, is very specific. It narrows it down to the specific pains and consequences of that problem. In other words, a general statement, given the analogy or talking about the analogy I just mentioned, is, I hate my job. A specific pain would be, I hate my job because everyone is taking credit for my work and I'm not getting compensated like my coworkers. So that's the difference between, the pain and the agitation. It also involves more emotion. So the problem phase is more factual, where the agitation phase is emotional and aims to stir discomfort and urgency. And the objective is also different. The problem phase, the main purpose is to increase awareness or create awareness, while the agitation phase pushes your audience toward action by emphasizing the negative impact of inaction. But of course, the two work together clearly. So, and the way they do this is the problem phase sets the stage by presenting an issue that the target audience likely faces. It's like putting a spotlight on the elephant in the room no one's really talking about. It turns up the heat, makes the audience feel the weight of that issue, and so they become motivated to find a way out. So for B2B companies, effectively using both phases means first connecting with the audience on a rational level with the problem, then on that emotional level, the agitation, so it can really enhance the persuasiveness of the copy. So again, the pain point is clear, as is the solution, but finding the intel to agitate the pain so they're open to your solution isn't always easy. So here's how you find the agitation point. Again, you need to talk to your ideal customer. These are the things you ask. One of my favorite questions when I'm interviewing a new client or their customer, more likely it's the customer of the client, is to ask them, walk me through your day and tell me the impact or demonstrate to me how, like, I may not even add the second part to this. Just walk me through your day. And, do you have coffee? I mean, it sounds like trivial stuff, but you can actually really get some great information. Do you have coffee at home? Do you go to a Starbucks? Do you go for a walk? What do you do? And then gradually get into how does this problem show up in their life? Maybe it's become so bad that it keeps them up at night. So, I toss and turn every night. Is this really something that's bothering me? Maybe it's affecting or impacting their work. Maybe it's impacting their relationships with coworkers if they're in a company, or it could be affecting their home life. They're arguing with their significant other. There's a problem within the community. Maybe it's so big that they're like shunning their friends and I mean, it could get out of hand. So it's really just stress of all of that, right? And what's the impact on their bank account? So if they're unhappy with whatever is happening, or it's just draining their savings, then there you have that agitation problem. And so second is you want to find out why the problem exists in the first place. How did it come about? When did you first notice it? And really get into, the details of that. Keep asking questions to get as far in as you can. Some people will shut down at a certain point. I've talked to so many people, and most of them are willing to talk when it relates to them, especially if they've solved it. So say it's a client's customer that is currently working with your client, and then it's, okay, we're just setting the stage for why you ended up going with my client's product or service. And then you want to get into number 3, ask them what the problem is costing them in regards to what I just mentioned. What's it costing them in their happiness? What about time? Are they spending too much time at the office, or too much time, wasting time on whatever it is that they have this challenge with? How is it impacting, what's it costing them money wise, happiness, and, so on. So, and when people start talking, listen carefully for the tangents that they want to go off on, or they tend to, because a lot of times, even if you have a set of questions in front of you, you really want to listen to that, because it could lead you down these side roads that are really helpful. And a lot of times that could be what ends up in your copy directly from conversations. I've had that happen many times where I've made a note in my notes with, this is going to be a headline because this is so perfect. Okay. So what you want to look for in agitation language is, and after I talk about this, I'm going to show you some examples of agitation copy in the real world. So you want to look for words and phrases that describe what happens if the problem isn't solved. Words like frustration, lost opportunities, missed deadlines. Those are good ones. Emotion, the language often it's feeling like stress, urgency, or frustration. Contrast, some sites might contrast the problem with an ideal scenario, which intensifies the agitation by describing what is missing. So what I want to do is show you some of the examples that I found here. So I'm just going through, what are the frustrations? It could be a money issue. So let's talk about this for a second. Basecamp is probably the most perfect agitation copy out of all the sites. And again, I went through so many, and it's not on the headline. That especially with a SaaS company, you'll start almost always with the value proposition. This is what I went over last week, so you can look at that for that episode for those examples. But if you scroll down, it's either the next paragraph or further down the page. In the case of Basecamp, it was down farther. But if you look at this, this is perfect for the agitation. Not everything under the sun, just the stuff to get things done. So that's kind of their value prop. And then it gets into, besides unlimited projects, you'll get pings for private conversations and so on. So you aren't constantly distracted, a timeline showing you everything that's happening, and plenty more to round it out. It helps you consolidate billing, cut costs, simplify onboarding. When you use Basecamp, you don't need separate apps for chat, file sharing, tasks, or basic scheduling. No more bouncing around. This is all agitation right here. Losing stuff, wondering where someone put something, paying multiple bills, or onboarding people in multiple places. That is clearly a ton of agitation that they know about, either from talking to their customers or maybe they've done surveys. I don't know. But that really nails the whole agitation phase. And then the next one I found, Grammarly takes a little different approach. They have categories. So they do customer support, marketing, IT, sales, and HR. So what's interesting here is that it talks about each department and how it will improve, how Grammarly will improve how they operate depending on what is the pain point for that department or for that division. So customer support, when agents write clearly, they close tickets faster. So they allude to the fact that if you're not writing clearly, you have a problem, right? Improve quality, friendly on-brand agents get higher customer satisfaction scores. So the agitation is the low satisfaction scores. Communicate responsibly, protect your brand reputation with inclusive language prompts. It's about branding. You don't want to mess that up, right? So customize for teams. Pre-loaded templates make it easy to respond. So no one's all over the place with how they are using their messaging. And it goes through each department. Again, it's marketing, and then it's the others as well. And then this one, Bear Metrics, which I was not familiar with, I found it in my research. They say, get help with failing charges. So that is the agitation right up front here. Your business is leaking money every month. I love the description. You picture a flood that's about to happen. To failed payments and losing customers, to delinquent churn. It's time to get it back. So this is great because it tells you exactly what they know you're going through, and here's how to resolve it. And then they end up, introducing the solution after that. So this is the type of copy. And there's a lot of brands and websites that I found that did not have any of this, or they had very little, or more than not, they would have agitation sort of woven into the solution, which is the safe way to do it. Because unless you're a very strong brand that knows that you can overcome whatever that agitation is you're about to put down, it's easier to just sort of weave it together. It's safer that way, as long as you let people know that you understand what they're going through and get specific. I can't emphasize that enough, because most of the sites I went on, almost all of them except the ones I just showed you, used marketing speak, which is just generalizations and words all of your competitors are using, or they're just not giving you enough information to let you know that they understand what you're going through. So it's marketing speak, it's generalizations. Get down into what, walk me through your day. Show me exactly what it is that's happening and how resolving this problem is going to help you. And that will make them realize, when they know that you get them, they will understand and believe that you also have the solution. So I hope you found this helpful. And again, problem, agitation, solution. It's one of the most popular formulas, and agitation is probably the hardest part to get right. So I hope these tips help you. Until next week.